Wi-Fi?
I did.
Okay. Weird.
You know what, I'm allergic to that.
Oh, that's right.
Okay. Everybody, we are live now.
Okay, thanks, Max.
I forgot about dying. That whole thing is very inconvenient, you know. Okay. Okay, we're good. We're not scared. All right. So, yeah, Lisa, you're in charge.
Yep, I'm just trying to pull up the agenda.
Yep. We, just want to make sure that, this committee met, so we would have an opportunity to, ensure that we talk about the strategic plan. That's the big thing, but also, you'll notice from the agenda, there are going to be things that, we'll want to touch base on, that were opportunities that are not part of the plan, but have become sort of a significant part of our day-to-day.
All right, can somebody send me the agenda, because I've got 5 Joe Kuiper emails, and none of them are the agenda.
It should have come from me, but I'll send you another copy right now.
Okay, thank you.
Joe, just so you know, we have another person in the waiting room that just says iPhone.
It's gonna be me, Zach.
Okay.
Jonathan.
Is that how you like to be referred to now?
Mm-hmm.
And just so everybody knows, we are live now.
Yes, okay, we're understood. Oh, my goodness. Just turn your volume off.
Does somebody have a hard copy I can look at so we can get started?
There you go.
Yeah, it'll come through to your laptop here shortly.
Okay, all right. Welcome, everybody, in person and electronically, to the September 27th meeting of the Strategic Planning Committee. We are coming to you live from Dominion Energy, which we've discovered is a good option for future meetings, good parking, good space. We are limited in terms of being able to do Zoom, so that is possibly an issue going forward we'll have to work through. So the first item on the agenda is diversity. But before we get there, I think given that we don't have our photos up, we should just go around the room and say who's here for those who are on the phone.
I think only Zach's on the phone.
Only Zach's on the phone. Okay.
So
all right.
we're going.
Hi,
well,
Zach.
Maybe for the sake of being legal, use the sake of being legal, walk around, everyone can just announce who you are.
Okay. So Lisa Murner, Dominion Energy.
Jonathan Martin.
Roberto Quinones.
Mary Bell Galen?
Joe Kuiper.
Ryan Barber?
All right, we are official.
All right. So, Joe and Ryan, take it away with diversity. And I do want to make sure we leave time for open discussion, because I have quite a few things I want to talk about.
Good. Well, as you all know, we've sent around our diversity, equity, and inclusion plan. That was something that was required by the state now, not just it was originally sort of a board initiative, but coincidentally, it coincided with Governor Northam's office in forming a DE&I cabinet level position. So we now have an official form. Frankly said, it is basically we took their guidance and their guidelines and incorporated it into our document. So I don't know if anyone has any specific questions or comments on that. Okay, yeah, just want to make sure everyone knows we're compliant.
So, I mean, I guess I have a question. Is being compliant sufficient? Do we feel good with what's in there? So what are we doing next?
That's a really good
compliance
question.
is never sufficient.
That's right. And I would agree with that. And that does kind of lead to the next couple of bullet points, which I'll just go into, but I think we can kind of keep the whole DE&I question alive with these 2 points. The first is that we have our flight exhibit coming up, and this is going to be our first bilingual exhibit. So the staff have worked, and we have found a firm that will translate all of the text for us. So not only that, but we put up some new graphics on the front of the building, which I know you haven't had a chance to
Front, like the exterior?
The exterior, yeah. So we have a new graphic banner, but also above the library windows, we have in very large font, "What will you discover?" So what we're going to do is we're going to put directly underneath that, we're gonna have that translated into Spanish as well. So we'll have our bilingual exhibit.
Tiny or also as big as the other?
Be the same font size.
Good.
Maybe a different color, just to.
Yeah.
We'll let the decorative people, work about that. But, so that's a step, you know, in terms of working with the local Hispanic community, which is growing. It's still very small, maybe 10-12%, something like that. I think at last count that I'm aware of, but it's definitely a population that's growing and one we should serve. The second thing I'll let Ryan cover is our Museums for All program.
Yeah, so, I guess for the last couple of years, we're taking part actively in what's called Museums for All. It's run by the Institute for Museum and Library Services. So it's a federal program. Basically, what we do is, up until recently, we offered greatly discounted admission. So, it was for adults, $2, kids, $1. And so, thanks to a gift recently from Hooker Furniture, they have underwritten the remaining costs, so now it's free of charge, thanks to that gift. So all individuals who have an EBT card present that card. If they present their ID, that's fine too, but we generally just accept the card. So we've seen a strong response both for general visitation, but also for festivals. So when we have our festivals, we see a large number of families come in using those, which is great. It shows that we're in partnership with IMLS, getting the word out about the program, and then they feel like the museum is attractive enough that they want to visit. So we want, obviously, we want them to visit as well. So yeah, we track the numbers. It's sort of a separate category on a point of sale system, so we're able to track the response rate.
And since we've offered it free of charge, thanks to Hooker Furniture, we have seen a larger proportion of our visitation come from people showing EBT cards. Yeah.
So we got that gift in, I want to say April this year, and immediately we saw a higher response rate.
Which was unanticipated.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Exactly. It is, and I've learned something because I've grown up in the museum world saying, don't offer stuff for free because people don't value it. Put at least $1 or something on it, or a pay what you will or whatever. But since we've knocked it off, I guess that $1 or $3 or $5 for a family was enough of a deterrent. So we're definitely seeing more of the neighborhood people coming in. So again, it's a start. I will say, yes, we're compliant. Is it good enough? No. Are we doing things? Yes. Are we there yet? No. And we're open to further initiatives to try to get more people involved in our programming. I guarantee you, things like lecture series and whatnot, field trips, we're not even scratching the surface of what we could do there.
So is it, go ahead.
I must admit, I need to take a deeper dive on that document, but the initial suggestion I would give is there's too many organizations that have nice fluffy documents that sit on a shelf and you can't see things actualized, but you guys are actually actualizing lots of things. I remember you had told me about, one intern you had, and at the last meeting, there was a mention of an intern that was actually deaf. So that, those are key things. I would just suggest literally keeping an inventory, add an extra column and, to all the objectives and whys and whatever, and the last column would be, this in action, where you start cataloging and documenting the proof that you're actually walking the talk. I don't know when and where that may come in handy, but I would say in certain situations, it's great to be able to pull something out of your back pocket and say, oh yeah, this is how we do that, because you never know where either a person from the public or from legislature will want to challenge you on certain talk. So pulling out the walk is a good thing to have in your back pocket.
And I think we're going to be put a little bit more under the microscope than in the past because we're, what are we, 200 miles from Richmond, whatever the number is. My estimation is that it's very easy to fly under the radar, but with everything from getting into detailed planning for Waynesboro to building the pavilion, which we'll get into later, and then Jonathan's effort with the ESCO project, people are taking notice. And I think it could be as well that people might want to put us under a bit of a microscope to make sure that we're doing things the right way. So I think
Well,
that's great
on-
advice.
On the proactive side, I mean, if you, if you're actually doing the stuff, the other thing is potential future allies that you can say, hey, we've been doing this stuff, can you, endorse us or,
Sure.
when it's time to get signature of co-sponsors and things down the line, it's always great to be able to put from varied audiences that are endorsing your efforts, so that would just be another hint.
Why not?
Those are two things. Three things, actually. One, who owns this? Is it this committee? Who owns moving us forward beyond the signage and the report and the things we've done? It's just a standing item for us to ask you every time that we'll push you. Who owns it? I have two more questions, but I don't know if you want to start with that one.
Tom Benzing, when he was chair, he charged this committee with DE&I initiatives, and if you remember, he also asked Siri Russell to serve on this committee, but she has since dropped from the board.
Right.
I have no explanation as to why, but it was amicable, at least in my
Right.
communication with her.
So we own it. We, Roberto and I own it.
Until
Yep.
somebody changes that.
I would kick it up. I would say the entire board is responsible, but
Yeah.
if we are the working committee
They're
for
pushing,
it,
yeah.
I would not leave the general board
Yeah,
off
I
the
totally
hook.
get that. Yeah, who owns pushing it and driving it? And so then the second thing is, to that end, what can this committee do to get smarter about what museums can and should be doing on diversity? Is there you're on all these organizations, is there like a guidebook for museums on diversity that we can read, or several papers or publications or best practices? Like, how can Roberto and I get smarter, and the committee, on what all the options are? What is the option set of things we could be looking at on diversity?
We have, coming up in a couple of weeks, and Mary Zell and I will be sending out the registration. We're fully registered as an entire organization, including our boards, for the Association of Science and Technology Centers Conference, so you can attend that online. And we can specifically look for DE&I initiatives that are going to be discussed by participants at that conference. The second thing, if I'm not mistaken, it was Museum Magazine recently had a series of articles on what people are doing. So we get the hard copies, but you also get access to a link, so I'm sure I can share that link and it'll be accessible to you.
I think it'd be helpful for us to educate ourselves and then figure out what one or two things we might want to send up to the board.
Okay.
For everybody to read. So we read through them and pick out what we think are the best content.
I was going to add too, I think there's sort of two parts of it. There's the best practices for museums, and then there's this fact that being a state agency,
Yeah.
within the context of, how do we capture gender, ethnicity,
Right.
all these data, there's maybe the museum standard, and then there might be the
Yeah.
state agency
Yeah, that would be
requirement.
helpful too, if there's
So-
like a set of state
Yeah.
requirements or something.
So for example, like for the survey, the visitor survey, the updated one, we worked directly with, the Office of DE&I for the state to make sure the questions seemed obvious, like,
Right.
again, ethnicity, gender, things like that. What's the exact language? Because it's always updated, and so
Right.
we want to be in close step with the state.
So I think that'd be helpful for us to get educated. And then my third thing is a small thing, but I sent you guys, I sent at least Joe, I don't know if it got sent to everybody. I might have included you, Roberta, I don't know, but I visited the, Denver Museum of, it's not natural history, but something like that, culture and history or whatever.
Nature and Science, maybe.
Nature and Science, super good museum. And they had done all sorts of things for diversity, and I think I shared some of those at the last meeting, but I was particularly inspired by a section of their bookstore, which was all about women in science, Latinos in science. It just was it stood out to me as I walked through that bookstore, and I just feel like we need something like that. And it can be just a little section, it can be a shelf, but I think we should, I know that's a tiny thing, but if you're a school child walking through a museum and, you know, and you don't necessarily see your language, but you do go in the bookstore because they've got cool stuffed animals or whatever, and then you see a section that's like women in science, Latinos in science, African Americans in science, I just think that can really make a difference to a child. And so I would like for us to look into that.
We have a new, visitor services specialist. How long has he been on board? A couple of months?
5 months maybe?
That long? Okay, cool. Time flies. You know, and he's still getting his legs under him, you know, now that we're back open to the public,
Right.
trying to get integrated.
Right.
But
Yeah.
He's pretty high energy and innovative, so, we'll certainly work with him on that.
All those books are out there because they have them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I know they're out there. Just
I know
figure out.
books are, except our own publications, books are not a real mover in our, maybe it would almost, well, we need to talk about that, how best to display that kind of information, that information is available, but not invest a lot of our, money into inventory, you know, and it's not, it's just
I get
books
it.
in general
I
that
get it.
that don't
Yeah.
move.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why we have a bunch of local things, we have our own publications, and whatnot, well, it's also different now than it was 10 years ago, so, you know, maybe we could try to push a few things like that.
Print something in-house? I don't know. Yeah.
We could always partner with, like, there's a Blackland bookstore in Martinsville too, we could maybe do something with them.
That's a great
Including,
idea. You're talking about books and crannies?
Yeah,
We,
something.
yeah, we always, I don't wanna say struggle, but I guess we do, with the purchasing rules for the state, we're not, so for example, that may be a good partnership on a consignment basis. You know, maybe we're not able to buy them from them, but we can have a display in partnership with them, that would be really good. And then push
I forgot
people,
about that.
and then we can push visitors, hey, be sure you check out this local store.
It's too bad people don't buy books. I don't buy your technical books because I can't get through them. They bore me.
They are.
But the second grade, how to read, but, you know, like how the light bulb was invented or whatever. I mean, I always bought those for my kids and made them read them. So, I don't know. So is it the kind of books you're selling, or is it books? She's saying it's the kind of books you're selling.
Part of it's the markup we have to do too, like,
Yeah.
in order to break even, we have to
Yeah.
sell it for a lot more than we can find it on Amazon. So
Yeah.
it's the,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, so our vendors are selling it to us at a 20% markup. And then
Yeah, so
we-
that's just not really helpful.
Just to pay our taxes on it, we gotta mark it up.
But it's a public service, if nothing else, to at least show the books to kids anyway. Maybe we just buy some and have them in our little room with the cool art
that would be,
thing.
I think that'd be, even if it was a
You
display in the
know?
store, knowing that people
That's a
aren't
good
gonna
idea.
buy
You
it.
know, just have them out
Yeah.
and, that way kids can flip through them when they're not climbing or whatever.
I gotta tell you, that's a good, I lived that example, 'cause right after our last board meeting,
Yeah.
we stayed in Roanoke, and I went to the Transportation Museum,
Yeah.
and they had a whole mini wall of blacks in the whole railroad
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
carman, and,
Yeah,
you know, what jobs were we allowed to do,
Yeah,
and what,
yeah.
and there was a book, somebody actually had a book written, 'cause I'm thinking, wow, somebody should've, and I went to the bookstore, and they had
Yeah.
a book on blacks in railroading. you
yeah,
know,
they're totally out
so,
there.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I think it was a Virginia book, in
Yeah,
fact, I think it was
yeah.
a specific Virginia book.
Yeah.
even. So they're there.
Yeah,
It's just
they
a matter of-
exist.
I don't know how they do it, 'cause it didn't look like a normal production book, it looked like a custom, almost, you know, to the topic book.
Yeah.
But they're doing it, I don't know, I don't know how they did it, if there's problems with the state on it, but they're a state museum too,
No.
it's pretty, no, the
Oh,
Transportation Museum?
transportation is not a,
In Roanoke?
yeah,
No?
I'm sure.
Hmm.
I'm sure that
Okay.
is not a state museum.
VMFA sells tons of books. They somehow make money. I don't know.
I think we got checked on that, and they got an exemption through the legislature to
Yeah,
run it
through the
through their
state.
foundation.
Anyway, I thought it inspired
It's
me,
a good-
the whole section on,
We'll work with Robbie and come up, we'll
Yep.
take these ideas and kind of put them in an incubator and see if
Yeah.
we can't come up, so, because I love the idea of taking, books meant for children about, even if it's just, when we're talking about career opportunities, you know, anything that shows that, you know, don't let these various things limit you, there's no
Yeah.
reason to. We could put them in the Discovery Reef, and of course, down the line, when we, renovate the library,
yeah.
so, awesome.
It could be a future exhibit idea too, possibly.
Yeah.
I'll have to check back into this, on the general DEI topic. I know years ago, maybe, the American Alliance of Museums had gotten money from someone to do projects with certain museums across the country, to literally send consultants and stuff to them. And from what I remember, I thought it might be on the way of eventually having something in the accreditation criteria that would be part of it. So if it's going there, I would assume they may also have some practices and things that they're looking to eventually codify. So that could be another, I'll try to look at that myself. That's a whole nother area, because in the last 5 or 6 years, they've finally woken up to things that need to get done with the new CEO, and they've actually tried going down that path. So.
Yeah, so here are the books. I mean, I've got, Ada's Twist, big project book for stellar scientist. Ada is a young African-American woman. Another book, Young, Gifted, and Black, about Black scientists. Hidden Figures, right, which we all know are the NASA ladies. Little Leaders, Bold Women in Black Science History. I mean, the books, they're all out there. So.
Well, elementary schools in our area have a book vending machine, and that's funded through the New College Foundation. So maybe I'll see how they, like, there's like enough books for every kid in school,
Right.
times 3. So if we could populate one of those with some science books and just have it out and be like.
Right.
I will say, I don't know if this is opportunity, but several years ago, my Rotary Club bought enough Webster's English dictionaries for every, I want to say, 3rd grade student or 2nd grade, so I can't remember what it was. Frankly said, it wasn't my idea, and even though I didn't vote against it or anything, on the inside, I was saying, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life, right? This is dumb. I can't believe the kids are just going to turn. The kids were, like, so grateful, like, to a T. They were asking, are you sure we can take this home? I'm like, yes, it's for you, and they loved it.
Well, if you have parents that don't buy you books,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
like my parents overwhelm me with books. If you have parents that don't buy you books, that's a pretty cool
I
thing.
think we do the same thing with these topics, but, be all-inclusive, we can't, I mean, find the right titles that, would kind of cross all spectrum, because I'd forgotten all about that until you talked about the book vending machine. I was like, God, the kids actually kind of like the books. They just don't know it that they like them,
Right.
Yeah.
until they get them.
I wonder if that's a topic that would fly in Donor's Choice. In Donor's Choice, you could put projects up there, and people will decide to throw money at it if they like the buzz of it, but.
I would think so.
Does it require you to be at school, though?
Sorry?
Does it require you to be at school, though?
I don't know. We can find out, but, I mean, that's just a partnership, we just.
Enough on that. I just don't want that to get lost, because I think it's doable, and I think it would make us look good, and I think it could really make a difference in a kid's life.
We got a lot of good, I mean, our club never gets any kind of press, really,
Yeah.
because we're all a bunch of old farts running around the community and stuff, but, that said, we got some good press for that, so, if we did something similar, plus some of these other ideas as well, why not?
The angle could be, we wanna fund some class trips to the museum, and each kid gets a book or something, I don't know. I'm just.
I think Donor's Choice, you have to be a public school teacher applying for the funding for your
Okay.
classroom, but there's other avenues, like that's not
Yeah.
the only
Oh,
avenue,
yeah.
that makes this happen.
I think I can find funding for that, no problem.
We can figure it out.
Might be a PUP grant through Harvest, could be it.
All right, let's not lose the diversity angle, though. All right, anything else on diversity?
I think we have our marching orders.
Send us stuff to read.
Just following up on that, I'm happy to, I don't wanna volunteer myself for something I'm not supposed to, but I can compile a list of like diversity and museum-related
Yep.
resources or something. I have consultants for those things.
That's right, you just got your master's in museum studies, you probably got a lot more than I have access to. So please, that would be awesome.
Reading list?
All right, next topic, the strategic plan.
To make sure we save, time for open discussion, I just wanted to walk through, I put the 7 main points at the bottom of the agenda for convenience. I'll just say everything is moving along, I'm not gonna take them in order, I'm gonna take the simplest, things first. I'll start with number 2, Genus Adams Education Pavilion. We have that out for bid, and the contractor, should be in hand shortly, so, hopefully by spring, we'll have this, behind us and going well. That, of course, will be the opening to begin work on the, potential for a canopy walk down the line. Rehab of Douglas Avenue, you got any updates on that, Jonathan? We're still waiting on 110 mil roofing material?
Yeah, well, the AG got back to us too,
Okay.
on the notes, so, yeah, just roofing material, and that's January, before we can even think of seeing it.
All right, so maybe we'll be able to talk about, what the next steps for Douglas Avenue are sometime around February or March or something, so spring of 2022. I'll skip down to the end, that's the accreditation. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, everything is going well. To kick back to the top, and I do have this within our agenda here, point 3, subset A3, I guess, the research centers. We of course have the existing biodiversity center, and we also have what we're basically settling on, a paleontology center, because before, you might remember that we were combining paleontology and geology into one center. Then we had Jim Beard's announcement of retirement. We decided to put that on the shelf, see what happens. The staff decided that while we're going to be taking good care of the geology collection and making it available for researchers, exhibits, and so forth, that we're going to be moving forward with a herpetologist. So we are now in the middle of the search for our next curator, which will be a curator of herpetology.
Snakes are cooler than rocks. That's kind of the decision you made.
Yeah, pretty much. So, well, plus we're a biodiversity hotspot for reptiles and amphibians.
Yeah.
We're right at the edge of that range, cutting over towards Great Smoky Mountains up into the Shenandoah National Park. So I think it's very, very appropriate.
Is
So,
Martinsville on the Appalachian Trail?
closest part to the Appalachian Trail is Roanoke, so about an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I know that was out of the blue. Okay.
Okay.
We should keep the cool glowing rock display.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a hit. So, as far as the centers go, we were also talking about one that we were going to call the Center for Virginia History and Prehistory, which was in anticipation of hiring a new archaeology team.
Yeah.
However, Dr. Bassett and his team have been doing remarkably well with the Cultural Heritage Monitoring Lab, and I'm going to propose making that one of our kind of centers that we use to help market what we do behind the scenes in a way that's of interest and intelligible by the general public. So the Cultural Heritage Monitoring Lab, and just a couple of projects, and please remind me of ones that I might be forgetting. They literally just connected with, was it Honduras? Haiti.
Yep.
They did Haiti in the earthquake, so
Yep.
they were identifying cultural centers that were under threat from the earthquake, but the other one was Honduras, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
They have sites that are threatened due to recent hurricanes, so Hayden and his team were connecting directly, utilizing satellite technology and mapping out areas in Honduras that were under duress from recent hurricanes and whatnot. So the Honduran military was down there doing the things that Hayden was telling them to do.
Right.
And then another one was he was documenting the looting of an ancient Greek site in Afghanistan that was being looted by the Taliban. And so he's then provided that information to DOD, and that's going to go to, who is it that monitors international thievery and
Interpol?
Interpol. It's
Mhm.
going to Interpol. And so the idea then is that they'll be using Hayden's data to document, because they already knew it was there, and they kind of know it's in there,
Mhm.
right? But it's one of those sites that you leave alone, right? And so they see that the Taliban are down there looting it. That's how they, more so than opium and stuff like that, the black market is what is funding a lot of their operations. So he's providing the data to Interpol, which will then be looking for those materials and trying to work backwards to stop the people who are the conduit for the Taliban getting that stuff out of the country, if that all makes sense. These are the cool things that he's doing. And yeah, we've stepped up our security, Roberto. So I think that kind of, now, a lot of that, the details are not going to be public, right? You know, the details of exactly which site it is. I just know what it is and what part of the country. I have no idea what country it might go to next. I have no idea, and that's just the way it'll be. So just FYI, we'll hear more about that unless, as far as the centers go, unless there's a specific discussion on those. I just thought this would be something that would evolve over time, and it certainly has. But the others that we've established, we feel pretty good about. So we'll be kind of marketing those very soon. So, and then the last part of the strategic plan that I'll talk about before the discussion of a retreat, we are in the detailed planning process of VMNH Waynesboro. We've been allotted all the funds to do that process. We are contracting with JMU as a project manager. They're very good at building buildings. They know their way around the state system. And they're also pennies on the dollar, if you ask me. I mean, it's going to be $200,000. The amount that we got was a little north of $1.1 million for detailed planning. They're going to charge us $75 an hour with a cap of $200,000 for the project, for the detailed planning project. They will then stick with us through construction. So
What happens to the other 8?
We'll be paying architect and exhibit design firms to do everything the state needs us to do to come up with a rather, even though the final result is what they call the preliminary plan, the only reason they call it preliminary is because the step after that is somebody takes that, you pay them, and they translate that into the actual documents. You hand a contractor who'll drive the bulldozer over and start breaking ground.
So two of the million is fine. Spending $200,000 is good.
Oh, yeah.
That's over the course of the whole project. So that's over the 5-year span.
Right.
Yeah, so $200,000 for to have them on board for the entire time.
So, I think we're in really good shape. We are now, just going through the RFP process, and, we'll hopefully, we've already started the, design teams. So, we have 5 design teams, that, involve staff, board, and foundation members, as well as, community partners. The challenge, of course, is we're trying to keep just 2 board members per team, right? And so when we open this up, we've done the introductory meetings. We have 1 left to do for landscape design. Once we move to the next phase, anybody can join any of those meetings. You can Zoom in, you can come in person, whatever. So if you want to participate, this will be opportunity. We just unfortunately have to kind of tie the hands of the Board of Trustees unless we want to specifically make a particular design session public. That's just the consideration there. So it is going well, according to plan, a little slower because it took 2 months for us to get the money. And the state would not let us put in, as Jonathan calls it, the CO2 form, which officially begins the project, and they would not accept one until it had the full amount down to the dollar written on it. So therefore, we're a little behind what I would really like to be. So I say everything is going along very well with the strategic plan, but I want to bring up, and I know you want to leave things open, and we're already at 12:20. Jonathan, really quickly, ESCO. This was not in the strategic plan, the energy savings project, but it was such a good opportunity we couldn't just turn it away.
Yeah, so Department of Mines, Minerals, and Energy worked with them to develop the plan with Siemens. So they completed the investment grade audit, and then they went on to create a detailed plan of energy savings for the building, and it's all dollar for dollar. So, and it's funded through the Treasury with federal funds coming in to help pay for the components of the solar, so the wiring and the panels, not the labor, but all in all, the project, finally, at the very end, we came to, I guess, a meeting of the minds and got it to cash flow. So it's positive year 1 through 15, and then into 15, I think it's something like a total of $238,000 of savings over 15 years. That's pricing in the escalation of utility costs. So I'm really happy with it. They're going to do solar. They're going to do 4 EV chargers, HVAC, humidification, the building envelope, and lighting, and those are all major things we needed to upgrade anyway. But if we would have gone through maintenance reserve on the lighting, we couldn't upgrade it. It just had to be a replacement of the same or equivalent. So this way we get LEDs, we get the savings,
and do the right thing.
So it's roughly $114,000 in savings in utilities per year to pay it off in 15 years. So.
And again, that's guaranteed. So if Siemens Design does not provide that kind of savings, they don't get paid. So that's right. Guaranteed.
They cut us a check for the difference.
Right. And I will say Jonathan did a great job because they actually came back to us with some ludicrous ideas because they're like, well, we can't get it to cash flow positive for the first year 2 through 8 or something like that. And they wanted us to invest a lot of money into it up front when originally the idea was we get the seed money and they're supposed to work with it. You play hardball with them. And they came back within 3 working days. They came back with well, hold it, we got cash flow positive, right? And it's good. It's all Bacon Davis. so we're good there. We're excited, and we don't really, I mean, Tim,
What did they assume for escalation of electricity prices? Did they get to making it cash flow positive by assuming they were gonna go up like 10% a year or something?
3%. But that's, yeah.
what do you think about that?
I think it's fine.
It's cash flow positive year one, so if they just remain the same, then it's a green light project. As long as we're $1 above, net, then that's good. But yeah, they did the same at 3% going into that 15 years, that's how they're saying that we're saving the whole $200,000 at the end of 15 years. And then, we have to keep the equipment and stuff for the remainder of its lifespan.
Yeah, as Jonathan said, all this needs to be done anyway, and, it is tough when you use, maintenance reserve. You've got a lot of you have more limitations going that route than going this route. And we will be the first,
State agency to participate in the program. So, Department of Virginia Energy now, I think.
they're called Virginia Energy.
They're gonna do a case study on us to present to the governor, and,
So we need to get some really, really good press out of it, like the governor needs to visit,
They have a moratorium.
legislators need to
They
visit.
told us we have there's a moratorium. We can't go to the press because they want to be the ones to drive it. And when they do that, we get so much more coverage with topics than if they try to take it out.
And about when is that all gonna happen? Is it about the time we need more money for Waynesboro?
I think the goal is to get it done within 9 months, so.
It'd just be good when
You're
we're
right,
going to
but-
ask for money to have some really cool press and to have just had the governor visit and just had a bunch of legislators visit.
I think it'd be good, and I think you're right. But incidentally, as far as the funds go, the state has already calculated, with escalation, that they'll commit to $18.7 million for Waynesboro. So they already have in their mind what it'll be. Now, that's for a 2023 groundbreaking, well, I should say start to the actual moving of dirt and stuff. Any kind of delay in the detailed planning, that might be out of our hands, like the review by Department of Engineering and Buildings, could push that back, say, like a year or something, and then they would recalculate that based upon further escalation, deeper into time.
Yeah.
But right now, they already know, they've already told us, this is your project, this is the size, square footage, the cost. It's awesome that you're putting in $3 million, to match it. At least with that $3 million, we can be flexible, and we can do things that the state might normally do. So I think we're in pretty good shape.
There's a cost study of each of the schematic
Exciting.
preliminary.
The last thing I'll bring up, and we don't need to, solve all the world's problems here, maybe we just call this planting a seed so we can do some open discussion. But in the past, when we did our 5-year plan, we called it a 2 + 3 year plan. So we do 2 years worth of work, have a retreat at the end of 2 years, discuss what's gone well, what might not really be as relevant as we thought it would, and look at new opportunities or challenges. And so last time at 2 years, we met at New College Institute. But I would propose that maybe for the May board meeting, we want to focus on not just having a standard board meeting, but then to take, say, 3 hours to do a retreat. We could actually meet off-site. It could be Richmond, it could be Charlottesville. So I'm open to facilities to meet at. New College was bargain basement. They gave the friends and family rate.
Yeah, I think it was free of charge.
Free? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's when Leanna was
Yeah,
president, so we got it for free.
we would get like,
So
Maximum
this
cost.
actually ties into one of the items I want to talk about in open business. I don't know if you had any open business, Roberto, but this is one of the ones it wasn't so much the strategic plan, it's kind of like, I feel like we should be, I know we're really busy, but I kind of feel like we should be talking about what comes next. What's after Waynesboro? What's after the Canopy Walk? What's next?
You want to attack problems in depth as far as time goes.
I don't know that it's so much in depth as just conceptually, what should be the next thing in our strategic plan? I feel like we've got Waynesboro a little bit in the bag, even though it's going to be a huge time sink. And the Canopy Walk, there's still lots to do there, but the pavilion is pretty much a done deal. I feel like we should all get together and talk about what comes next. So I fully support having the May meeting be a bigger offsite, unless by combining it, it's less time. Like when we did it as its own thing, was it less than 3 hours?
I'd have to look at the.
I mean, I guess my question is that sufficient? I don't know if that's
I
sufficient
think we
or
had a
not.
board meeting and then maybe spent about a half a day. I don't think board members got out at NCI until like maybe 3 in the afternoon. So we had committees, full board meeting, lunch, and then, yeah, maybe it was like 3 or 4 hours.
I don't know, I just wanna make sure we give it sufficient time, I don't wanna do it in an hour. I think it's more like we did before, putting stickies on the wall,
Yeah.
breaking in teams, really.
We're gonna have an hour and a half of rotational teams
Yeah,
and whatnot, and then after that would be the kind of, synthesis, so.
right,
we'll
I
see.
fully support doing that, 'cause
Okay,
I
good.
feel like at these meetings, we're like, here's what's in our plan, here's what's going on. I feel like we need to be more strategic about our strategery.
Okay. But I think that's exactly what a retreat should.
That was gonna be my question, because in looking at this, and I apologize for not having it all in my brain, but it's kind of like, okay, like, these are concrete kind of
Right,
things,
right.
as opposed to, we're doing this because are you familiar with the term BHAG? Big, hairy,
Yeah.
aggressive goal?
Yeah,
So like, we're doing this to accomplish
right,
world hunger, Mideast peace, you know what I'm saying? Like, all these things are great, but they're too, like, what was the
They're-
purpose to do that?
they're
Like,
tactical.
why are we doing a canopy
Yeah.
walk? Why are we doing this extra location? Is it to solve being the best museum in the state, or being the best museum of natural history, or, what is that BHAG that we are doing these things to accomplish? And not to take away from any of them, but just,
I get your point.
from our point of view, and this is are you gonna be at the finance meeting too?
I have to be,
Okay, good.
because of the room.
But it's kind of like, in the back of my mind, I need an answer on, like, we are not an advisory board. We're actually empowered, to cut checks and stuff. So where is the board actually, how deeply is the board engaged in that? Not trying to get into your shorts, but the other side of that is, bringing the expertise and the due diligence or whatever we're supposed to be doing to say, yeah, we bless this because it solves this and it solves the strategic plan, and, we've done our due diligence as a board in ensuring that this contract looks good,
Mhm.
right? Not questioning what you guys have done, but just checking the box that says, we as a board looked this over and we approve what staff did, even if it's as simple as that. But, and now with the treasurer role, I just have a couple of questions that just for my edification, I'd like answered. But to your point about, what's the bigger picture? What is the bigger picture? We don't need to be in your nits and gnats on how the building's being built unless we want to be, or unless there's some responsibility for it. But by the same token, we need to check that box. So where's that middle ground? I don't know where it is, and you guys have been here longer, so you might be able to educate me, but at least, if it's on my shoulders for certain things, I want to be sure I have the answers. So I agree with you, and it goes back to the DEI thing. It's great for us to tackle it down, but the rest of the board also needs to have a little skin in the game. So, off my soapbox.
I think that's great. That's what I want. I'll tell you, all the projects that we're doing, leads to, greater individual sustainability as an agency, right? So I don't know that I'm tackling world hunger or scientific illiteracy or anything. I think that the scientific illiteracy part I look at more positive. Spreading scientific literacy, is gonna be a byproduct of all this, because we're gonna have a deeper reach. The canopy walk was to create that experience that people, no one wakes up in Lynchburg and says, hey, let's go to the Natural History Museum today. But if there's a canopy walk,
It becomes part of the daily routine of many people.
I've been wanting to do that for a year now.
It may be a PR spin game. It may be just a matter of having the language in place that says, for the layperson as opposed to the scientific or the legislative people, what's the layperson story that we answer properly?
A few years ago, the idea, and this came out of a board, I think it might have even been one of the Waynesboro off-site meetings with the board that we had, but the idea was to borrow from the state parks, that is to have a natural history experience within 1 hour's drive of every Virginian. And VMNH Waynesboro is step one. Where's the next location go? How do we operate it? Do we have the capacity to operate, say, 5 or 10 branches, right?
you just triggered, I remember in one of your talks, you mentioned about the museum being somebody's folly out in the boondocks of Virginia.
Bill Potts folly, yes.
So now, I mean, these things expand your presence throughout the state, so, you know, how far and wide do we need to have a satellite, so to speak? And that's
And I think at the meeting, which hopefully is, you know, at least 3 hours, I think we need to talk about some of those big picture things, not just like, we have 3 centers now and we should have 5, and what should their names be? Or, you know, I think we need to talk about who we wanna be when we grow up, that kind of thing. Those big picture questions. And then we can get down to some of the more tactical things, like, okay, given that we wanna do this, we have 3 centers, you know, what should the other 2 be? But I don't wanna do like the tactical canopy walk. I wanna do like the bigger picture stuff. That's my vision of a strategy.
Well, I'm glad we're talking about this now so it can go on people's calendars next month.
Yeah, and as far as location, I would just beg that it not be in Martinsville.
Sure.
Somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
In the middle-ish. We can
Well, I wanna
find somewhere free.
I wanna get the staff out.
Free.
We looked at, the Rice Environmental Center, but there were caterer issues.
Well, what if somebody pays for the catering? What if I pay for the catering?
No, it wasn't that, it was, availability, or
Oh.
something, I don't remember, that was a while ago, but.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Amazing. You've been, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
So,
Yeah.
that was one, and I don't know if it's, I don't remember
In
what.
this environment, there must be facilities dying for anybody to walk through their
Yeah.
doors right
Right,
now.
right.
I bet Charlottesville, I mean, I bet there's some cool something or another in Charlottesville. I mean, I don't know.
We could, Hayden still works very closely with their,
Sounds like everybody over there.
yeah.
The architect-
Oh, yeah, and the architecture group as well.
Mhm.
So we might look into, what we'll do is we'll look into the
When is the
possibilities.
meeting?
May about 15th, middle of the month.
So, and it's just kind of a random idea, but Apex Wind, I don't know if you guys know of Apex Wind. They just are building in Charlottesville the largest mass timber, greenest building in North America in Charlottesville. It's a 8-story building made entirely of wood. It's gonna be the corporate headquarters of Apex Wind, and, it's literally an 8-story building made out of wood, and it's got green this and green that. I'm sure they would love to show it off, and we could meet there for free. So, just put our heads together. It's gonna be a super cool building, and it opens in December.
And it's a two-way street here. We know we wanna, again, meet centralized, so no one has to, do a 5-hour
Right,
slog.
right.
I get it, but at the same time
Thank
too, I like the idea of being able to get the staff.
Yeah,
someplace.
I think all the staff should, personally, I think they should all be involved in the strategy session.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, the entire leadership.
All
team,
it adds a
plus
lot.
few others, yeah.
All right, add one other thing, if we're good on that. Are we good on that?
I have that lunch I need to get to with the budget analyst.
Okay,
You're
this
good.
would be really
Mary,
simple.
you can stay here if you like.
I have to walk you out. This would be really simple.
I can finish taking notes.
She has to walk us out.
I have to walk, I'll have to
Okay.
walk him out.
Yeah.
So, we need somebody besides the 2 of us on this committee.
Yeah, agreed.
So how are we gonna do that and make that happen?
I can communicate with Jennifer and copy you as chair. Well, I may as well copy the whole committee.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
do you have a recommendation or a request, or,
I haven't paid enough attention to the new people on the board. Is there anybody diverse?
as far as, I gotta think.
Diverse, maybe okay, so maybe not diverse. What about diverse compared to the 2 of us? Different skill sets, different,
Well, Mark Buss is in the business, right, so
I kinda cover the business thing.
right,
Just somebody that thinks differently than the 2 of us. Maybe you can think of that.
yeah, okay.
'Cause I know you've gotta run, but,
I'll come up with a few recommendations.
yeah, somebody that just would have a totally different perspective than either of us. I just think it's good to have diversity of thought.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody who's gonna really participate.
Well, therein lies the rub. We've got, a number that are extremely well-meaning, and they keep their membership and stuff, but they kinda hard to get hold of,
Right, well,
so, yeah.
so we all have to leave at the same time, so,
Okay.
did you have any any items
About
for
that
the
guy.
open?
No, it's gonna be such.
No, the only other thing I was gonna say in terms of your meeting stuff, it's like, I mean, if we're gonna go through all this effort, we really can invest, 'cause I mean, whether we stay an hour or whether we stay a day and a half,
Yeah.
we still gotta go through the same damn
Yeah.
rigmarole.
I'm good
So
with that.
we might as well, if we're getting together, like,
Yeah, no, I agree.
have a full meal as opposed to a snack,
I
so,
completely agree.
'cause we gotta drive it anyway.
Yeah. All right, you can all leave your stuff here. I wouldn't leave your wallet, although nobody's gonna take anything, but still, we do need masks. And yeah, we'll all walk you out,
Excellent.
and then the rest of us go get lunch.
I'm trying to take advantage of this trip up here, so.
Yeah.
It's always good to shake hands with the budget analyst too, that's giving us,
Zach, thank you.
allocating the lead.
Hey, Zach? Hey, Zach?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks a lot, appreciate it. We're calling it a day for this